fantasy baseball, everything you need to know in 2022 and beyond. I am Michael Govier. He is Phil Govier. You can find him on Twitter at Phil of Sports, Phil of Sports. Michael Govier, MJ Govier on Twitter. GOV as in Victor, IER. We're going to finish up the AL East prospects that we didn't get to last week. If you missed last week's show, we talked about a couple of teams, including the Red Sox and the Rays and the Blue Jays. Is that correct?
Maybe the Orioles. I think we talked about the Orioles.
Oh, yeah. Shit. You're right. My bad. That's what we'll talk about today.
Utah, give me 2.
2 L's, 2 Z's on Twitter, Plausible Podcast. Phil, how you feeling today, and what do you think will happen? Will there be a regular season on time? Are we going to see a delayed regular season now as of February 15th, 2022?
Yeah, I would think there's going to be some amount of delay.
Ooh.
I think they know they can have about a month of spring training and get the season started. So they're cutting it close as of this next week, probably. And it doesn't sound like they're there yet. So, but we'll see. I don't know. Somebody was writing that the two sides don't seem to be mega far off. Like there's not like a huge ask from the players at the moment. So I can't remember who wrote this, but they were thinking that a deal would get done just kind of based on that because they really aren't talking seismic changes. So maybe with more time to get there, or maybe it'll be Memorial Day and we have opening day and Memorial Day this year.
Oh, come on. No way. Matthew Z's in the house. What up? Matthew wants to talk about Trey Sweeney, which we will talk about momentarily. But he also says, give me 2. You want it? You got it, Matthew. Here it is, just for you.
Utah, give me 2.
2 for you, Matthew. Matthew, you were a newcomer to the show over the last 6 weeks. Really glad to have your input. Your Baseball America, you're big on that. Was it Baseball America? Sometimes I mess up.
Yeah.
Baseball America and Baseball Prospectus. I don't know why I do that. But Baseball America is what he was big into because you guys both listen to the same podcast, right?
Yes. Yeah. He, I think, listens to it more than I do. So he had some good info that I had missed.
2 L's, 2 Z's, Jasper. Good to see you, my friend. You're always one of the originals.
Hey, Jasper.
What's up, dude? We love seeing you guys here in the chat. Thanks for being a part of the situation. Jasper, let us know how you feel about your Double Deuce Dynasty points draft going.
Yeah.
At this point, what are we, around 30-something?
We are in a round. I feel like it always happens with these slow drafts. I'm to the point now where the timer is only hitting me like while I'm asleep. And so my last like 10 picks or something have been just off the queue. So like I get up in the morning and I'm like, who did I even put on the list there to pick? So it's
for those of you that don't listen to the show regularly, Phil runs the Double Deuce Dynasty. He's got his own Discord. He does a lot of different dynasty leagues within that where he runs the show. It's a very cool little world you got going on there, Phil. And I'm glad to be a part of it finally. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this draft. And we're at round 31, just for the record.
Of 70.
Dynasty, man. I have 3 dynasty drafts going right now, actually, in terms of first-year player drafts. So I am knee-deep in dynasty right now, and it's exciting. And I got to say, I'm really digging it. Mistakes have been made here and there, but a little rusty as the season hasn't kicked off yet, and I feel good about where the team is going. It's always important to remember what your league settings are, though, right, Phil? Because it's not just a dynasty league. You have to know the specifics of the scoring and be very aware so that you make the right moves. You don't want to take OBP-heavy guys in a roto league necessary, for example.
Yeah, or like this points league is totally different. You don't have to worry about like stolen bases as much.
Exactly.
But then you need to worry about some other stuff. So it's cool.
What's your team name in the Double Deuce Dynasty?
I think I'm the Green
Dublin
Sox.
Green? Yeah, the Dublin Green Sox. Okay. Just for a little sample, for those of you who are curious about his team, he's got Frank Schwindel on his roster. If you like Frank Schwindel. Schwindiesel. Yes, dude, I love that. That's awesome. Well done. Bryson Stott is also on his roster, if you like Stott.
Yeah. Hot Stott.
Hot Stott.
He's my shortstop.
You're on a roll. It's impressive. You got a lot of White Sox with Eloy, Yohan Moncada, Mike Trout, blah, blah, blah. So these are some of the hitters. And he drafted Lonnie White. Well done on that one, too. That was a nice pickup.
Do you like that one?
I do. I've learned a lot more about Lonnie White over the last week, and I wish I would have got him in another draft. I got sniped the other day.
You probably know more about him than I do, but I just knew he was a Penn State football commit. And I've seen him play a little bit, but outside of that, I don't know a ton. So I'm excited just to see what happens with him, really. I mean,
I just knew that he was I was looking for players in round 2 that may be first round talents who maybe fell a bit or for other reasons like that. And he was one of the names that were on several lists. Lonnie White. You guys are pounding the comments here, which you can always do in our live chat. Remember, it's the Palazzo Podcast Prospects Power half hour. We get in, we get out, we get on with our lives. It's the AL East conclusion right now. Helmut in the house. Helmut Cormalis. Good to see you, Helmut. Yo, sup? Any Hayden Wesneski opinions? Another pop-up Yankee overhyped prospect? Or is he any good, Phil?
Man, I think I tweeted a video of him out earlier today, but I was goofing with some stats, and his stats were just actually pretty phenomenal from what I saw. So if you give me a moment, I'm on the fly, but I'll pull him up. But yeah, no, I don't think he's an overhyped Yankees prospect. I guess the issues were the Yankees, you can never have enough pitching, but where are they going to put all these arms? Because they seem to have, they have him, they have Waldichuk. Randy Vasquez looks like the real deal. He might be the best out of all of them. So Davey Garcia is still sitting around there. So they've got a lot of pitching talent in the Yankees org.
Oh, shit.
Unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Phil. We got this guy who showed up, Clifton McClintock. This is a guy who works like a maniac. I contacted him initially through the Baseball Doesn't Exist YouTube page because I was commenting on a video and we started talking. And he had this whole backstory that was so awesome about one Arizona Diamondback from long ago. Clifton, I am so glad you made it to the show here. I don't know if you even played Dynasty, Clifton, but thank you for coming by, subscribing to the YouTube channel. This is really cool. It's like connections and actions.
I love it.
I'm spacing out right now, but
okay, back to things at once. So
yeah, that's my bad. Let's go back to Wesneski. Let's finish the Wesneski talk here. So I've never heard of Hayden Wesneski, but we are talking AL East, so it's good to learn another name that I need to be aware of.
If I can find, here we go. Searching your own tweets. That's how we do this. Yeah. So all right. I found this clip of him working out in like his off-season training, basically.
Okay.
It's on my Twitter if you go on my Twitter. It says he's taking souls with a 94 to 97 mile per hour sinker, as well as a slider, cutter, and changeup. And like the slider looks gross. It's like a Frisbee in this video. So, but I looked him up because I made a stat. I've been messing around with the stat for a couple years. I call it zone dominance. And the idea is it measures two things: throwing strikes and getting swinging strikes. So can you work in the zone? And then are you dominant by getting people to swing and miss? So how it works is you take the strike percentage, number of pitches that are strikes, and you take the swinging strike percentage, and you adjust both relative to what the league average is and add them together. And if you're over 3, it's elite. And Wesneski was a 3.5 last year. So the stuff looks very legitimate.
Ooh.
I don't think he's overhyped. I think he's maybe under.
Okay. Hell yeah. Well, great call here, Helmut. I'm glad you brought it up, and I hope Phil gave you a little taste of what you were hoping for there. That was on the fly, too. So well done, Phil. That's why you're the best in the business. And the Diamondback that me and Clifton bonded over was Damian Miller. So going back to this comment, I don't know if you remember Damian Miller at all. Do you remember him?
No, I'm drawing a blank.
So he was a scab player, from the 94 lockout, 94 strike. Okay. And he won a World Series with the Diamondbacks. He also hit the first walk-off grand slam in Chase Field history for the Diamondbacks off of Oral Hershiser, who we actually talked about last week for some reason. So that's funny that it came up again. And Clifton, he knows all about this because he's from the same hometown as Damian Miller. So, which apparently is in Wisconsin. So that's what I learned when I connected randomly through YouTube comments on a video that has like 300,000 views and is just filled with endless comments about baseball. It shows two things, Phil, that people are, if you do put out quality baseball content, people will find you and enjoy it, and that baseball still has a place in today's world.
So I'm pulling up Damian Miller because
he was a catcher.
There are brothers, Owen Miller, and now I'm drawing a blank on his brother's name, but Owen Miller's from Wisconsin.
The Cleveland Guardians, Owen Miller?
Yeah.
Really?
I wonder if there's any relation. I guess Miller is probably the most common name in Wisconsin after Johnson.
Yeah, right. Clifton, you got to fill us in and find out, is Owen Miller Damian Miller's son? Is he a nephew? Is there a relation? Wisconsin makes me think it's clear as day. There's got to be some type of familiar relation. Although Miller's a very common name, as Phil said. But
Owen Miller is from Mequon, Wisconsin.
Oh, I like Owen Miller, too. He was a part of the Clevenger trade, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah, good one.
Yeah,
and his brother's a prospect, too. I just can't think of his name. I'm just blanking right now.
Well, it clearly runs in the family. That's fantastic. Clifton says, not to his knowledge, no. Well, Clifton, you got something that you can research. I know you're busy as hell. He tells me he works like a maniac. Works all the time. So when you find some downtime, Clifton, let us know if you find anything out. We'd really appreciate it. He also says, but I could be wrong. If Owen is from Mequon, probably a distant relation. Okay, well, that's a start. This is the Owen Miller Show, sponsored by rotofanatic.com. Don't forget to go to rotofanatic.com. We got the Data Monster. We got a bunch of great stuff over there. We also got the YouTube where we're doing positional tier breakdown videos. They're about an hour long, very detailed analysis, position by position. Check it out when you get some time. Glad that Clifton got here, but I got to move forward now because other people are saying things like Helmut. Wesneski, zone dominant. Love it, man. Thank you to Phil. Yes, Phil. Cheers to Phil. If you're not following Phil on Twitter, you're making a grave mistake. It's right here, Phil of Sports on Twitter. All right, so let's get into what we're supposed to be talking about, which is the AL East prospects we didn't finish. So you want to start with the Yankees since we're already kind of talking about them?
Yeah, we'll talk some more Yankees. So my top three for the Yankees, number one, shortstop Anthony Volpe. I actually don't know how to say it now that I'm have it in front of me. But he really broke out last year. I believe he was a high school teammate of Jack Leiter's. There was some idea that part of the reason why the Yankees took him was because of that connection, because they took Leiter as well and were trying to get him to sign or whatever before he went to college. But
classic.
I don't think that was the case, as we can see, because he went nuts last year. Looks like a future shortstop with power and speed, upside, and a great plate approach. So maybe the Yankees found another one here. So great season. I think he's kind of clearly their number one. The system's pretty loaded in my mind. So somebody had a Trey Sweeney question when we started. I do have Trey Sweeney as the number two prospect in that system because I think he can.
He was
really
just drafted last year, right?
Yeah. Yep. From I don't remember if he's Eastern Illinois or Northern, one of those weird Illinois schools. Small Illinois schools, but he can really hit. He's big and athletic. He can hit for power. He's got a good plate approach as well. I think somebody said, will he be their third baseman in 2023? That's an interesting thought because they are kind of jammed at shortstop, I suppose. Maybe not at the major league level, but coming up the system, they've got a lot of shortstop. And third base is, like, I looked it up. Roster Resource has LeMahieu being their third baseman primary this year. They do have Gio Urshela still, who is a very solid defensive third baseman. And then that's about it. I mean, they don't really have much outside of that. So I could definitely see Sweeney taking that job by 2023. It's a very good idea.
He's from Eastern Illinois, by the way. Eastern Illinois. I don't know what they're called. That's also the same university that Tony Romo went to. Eastern Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of Chicago
and Sean Payton.
At school. Yeah. Sean Payton. Yeah. Absolutely.
A weird legacy at Eastern Illinois.
Yeah.
Also, another Eastern school, a directional Eastern school from Washington, Eastern Washington, is now home of the current Super Bowl MVP, Cooper Kupp. Did you think it was a good game? Was it boring?
I didn't watch a minute of it, to be honest with you. I was happy for Stafford. The game didn't start till 11 o'clock my time, so I'm happy for Stafford, though.
Yeah, congratulations, Mr. Stafford. You get out of Detroit and good things happen, apparently. Detroit Lions will suck the life out of you. Trust us, we know. And do we cover, what about the deep cut here? Who's the deep play for the New York Yankees farm system that we should know about?
Yeah, if you listened to the episode with Christian Crespo, he was on the deep cut before we were on the deep cut. Shout. It's Anthony Garcia. So watch some clips on YouTube of this kid. When I was doing like the barrel stuff for hitters last year, I made some charting, and the Garcia's barrel rate was like estimated was like it like broke the thing. They broke the numbers or whatever, and like found a hole in it. His estimated barrel rate was like 60%, which makes no sense at all. But when you look at it plotted along with the other barrel rates, it's like in outer space, basically. But he's wild.
Shit.
He's a 6'5", 225, something like that, a switch hitter. He was a catching prospect originally. His power is literally off. He's a at least 80 raw power guy, A+ power. And I think he can hit enough. He's athletic enough. He's a switch hitter, so you think he's got some amount of hit tool there. I think he's really is legitimate. I will see as he works up against better pitching if it holds up or not, his approach. But at the very least, he's a lotto ticket that you want to grab if he's out there in your league. And I would even say, even in a league that's shallower number of prospects that you're rostering, sometimes you need to jump at those really high ceiling type guys. And then if they don't pan out, you can churn them. But it's sometimes the only way to get your hands on a high ceiling guy. So.
Jasper said this earlier in reference to the Double Deuce Dynasty Points League that we are so gratefully a part of, thanks to Phil Govier. So far, I love it. I made a few choices I might not have under less stressful times. Well, Jasper, sorry to hear about your stress. Hang in there, buddy. Hang tight.
I will say,
okay.
Schwindel's my first baseman in that, and that was one where I got up in the morning and I saw, oh, I guess I took Schwindel. I didn't remember putting him at the top of my queue at all, but he's there now.
Yeah,
he's got to ride the wave.
That'll happen.
Yep.
Speaking of Dynasty, today I made a trade in a other Dynasty league I'm in. I'm curious what you think of this. So, it's an OBP based Dynasty league. It's not points though, but it's Roto OBP, and I gave up Max Muncy of the LA Dodgers, who has an elbow issue, and in return I got CJ Cron and Kevin Smith of the Blue Jays. What do you think?
I don't hate it. I think Smith's going to do something this year, so I think he'll contribute. I think wasn't Crone on the witness stand today in the Tyler Skaggs?
Oh boy,
trial?
Yeah, man. I didn't know he was on doing testimony. I only knew that Matt Harvey was out.
Yeah, I saw there was some kind of testimony from Crone about getting. I think it was Oxy from the coach. I don't know, man. That's a mess. It's a nightmare. And I think it's also one of those types of things where the MLB will be like, well, this is a issue specific to these 3 or 4 people, when in reality, it's huge. It's a huge, which is what Harvey said today, really. So
what a joke that is. Yeah, absolutely. I was on a podcast last week called The Baseball Project. It's a newer venture. It's kind of talking more about mental health and the love of baseball with fantasy baseball and prospect stuff mixed in. Really good stuff. 2 guys I like, Jared Perkins and one of the new guys on the scene, Matthew Goodwin. Really good guys. I like both of them a lot. Shout out to them. And we talked about this Tyler Skaggs case and how Matt Harvey was going to testify. And I tell you, it's prevalent. Like you said, this isn't some fluke thing. It's a fluke thing that someone died, but every day people die from opioid overdoses across this country, the United States, because of fentanyl being in pills or even in sometimes extreme cases, cocaine, things like that. But they're mislabeled and you don't know what they are. And next thing you know, you're done. You think you're taking one thing, but you're taking a fentanyl dose that'll put you out for good. And I know from experience, I'm an opioid user. I'm in recovery now. I lived that life, so I know what I'm talking about. And I knew the risk every time I threw those pills down my gullet. I knew what I was doing. I bought them off the streets of Detroit. I knew that it was illegal. I knew I was doing wrong, and I didn't give a shit about that at that point. I got to do what I got to do so I don't get sick. But I knew that it was a risk to take pills off the street. So I understand why we want to blame people, and it sucks that Tyler Skaggs died. Of course it sucks, but at the same time, when it comes to this type of stuff, I don't know if you can really hold someone accountable for someone else's decision, even if it was an accident. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I just think when it's a systemic issue, like we've seen just some drips and drabs about it being. I don't know why it wouldn't be a systemic issue in MLB because it is in society generally, right?
Yep.
So when it's a systemic issue, it requires a systemic approach and solution. You can't look at it in narrow terms of individuals and how they need to change their own. Everybody needs to pull themselves up by the bootstraps and get off the wacky pills. It's a systemic thing. It's a systemic thing. So
it's absurd. Trust me.
It's sad. It's sad. And these guys, I'm sure they don't want to say anything about feeling like shit and their pitchers. And I'm sure their fucking shoulders kill them all the time, but they don't want to say it because then they're going to get, they're going to get passed over. They're down to AAA or whatever. So, I feel their pain. I think it was a really tough situation. And unfortunately, and this one ended really tragically, but it's a time where they can say, look, the next one is not going to end this way if we do make some changes. I don't know if they will.
That's a fair point. That's a great point. I think we're going to look back now at Matt Harvey's career and realize that he was addicted. He was an addict, and he had serious problems with drug use.
People don't really talk about it anymore. What about, Roy Halladay? Crashed his airplane,
He was high when he did it.
So much pain, that he was on.
He was high when he crashed that plane. I've read there's a great detailed story. I think it was done on ESPN.com a couple years ago about Roy Halladay's his whole life and his final days, and he went back and forth trying to get off the stuff, and then he relapsed, and he was on it again, and when he crashed that plane in Florida, he was fucked up.
Yep.
So, anyways, I've spent most of my 30s on opioids, and it ruined my life, and I take it very personally, and so I have a lot to say about that stuff, and you see people like this now on stage talking about the real with Matt Harvey and CJ Crone. They're blowing dope and doing all kinds of stuff. That stuff exists. It's just kind of interesting when you see it as actually admitted to in a public forum because baseball's so secretive. All of these sports, they try to keep all this stuff under wraps, but baseball in particular, nobody in the clubhouse, everything's low key. So when you get a little peek into the window of reality, what's going on, which we all assume is happening, it's fascinating to have it confirmed.
Yep.
And I'll leave it at that. All right, so let's finish off with the Toronto Blue Jays then. We didn't cover the Blue Jays, right? That's the one team we need to do.
I don't think we talked about the Blue Jays at all.
Yeah, that's one of the most exciting, in my opinion, even though you said last week that they're kind of gutted now. They're not as potent as they once were as a farm system.
Yeah, and I looked over the pitching in the last couple of days, and I don't think the pitching is very strong. Like on the good note, they do have Manoah, who looks like he's going to be a great success for them. So that makes that can pave over a lot. But past that, I don't know that there's a ton coming up. So the big guy for Toronto, Gabriel Moreno, who you hear rumors about teams trying to trade for him in that short off-season meetings, winter meetings that occurred this year. So other clubs are targeting Moreno. Toronto does have a lot of catching options, but I think Moreno is going to be one of them this year, definitely by next year. He was a guy I actually didn't know anything about, and he popped up on like the first estimated barrel list I made. So he was pretty under the radar at the time. He's now probably the consensus top prospect in their system. But it's interesting how if you're looking at stats, they can kind of point you to guys before you hear a lot about him, especially when they're like he was in full season ball or something, and there wasn't a lot of info out on him. So that makes me happy, obviously. So he's their number one. Arelvis is number two. He should be shortstop, third baseman. He can really hit for a lot of power last year. So he's one to definitely get excited about for the Blue Jays fans out there for the system. And then Jordan Groshans, number three. I still think he's a major league player for sure. There might be questions if he plays short or third. I think he can probably play both if needed. But the bigger thing is whether he's going to hit for much power at the next level. So he still has time. He could mature some more pop. And even if he doesn't, he'll be a nice player for real life, even if he's not super great for fantasy purposes. So
yeah, real life, wonderful.
So, but look, and things can change quickly for these guys. So maybe this is the year Groshans breaks out, like everybody thought he might. So,
Christian says Moreno is an incredible player, great athlete, even playing some third base, which This is the classic. If a guy's a catcher, oh, he could play any position. He's athletic, right? We've always hear that. So I'm not surprised to hear Christian say that.
It's just tough to pull off in the bigs, I think, because you're managing the staff and there's all the other responsibilities that come with it, you know?
Yeah, it's a bigger. That's such a great point. We talk about framing has become more popular over the last 7 to 10 years. We talk more about that as something that we can use to figure out pitchers a little bit better and hitters too. But you're right. That's just the tip of the iceberg with catchers. They have such a responsibility. And we also hear the classic cliche about catchers make great managers. But that's the reason why, because they do manage so much when they are players.
Yep. They call in the game. They also get hurt the most. It's the most physical position. So they do take
That's why what Yadier Molina's doing is amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what Carlton Fisk is even more amazing. He played for like 22 years.
Bananas, right? Yeah.
That's bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil Carr says, what up, Mike? Good to see you, Phil. Welcome to the show, my man. Follow Phil on Twitter at Phil of Sports and follow me at MJ Govier. Anytime, any place. We're there for you. Get the chatter going on Twitter, guys. I know there's a lockout going on and baseball is tantalizing us with a possible start date, but it seems like so far away at the same time. But don't let that ruin the fun. We got to maintain our joy and not let them rob us of that. We like baseball. We like dynasty. We like prospects. We love fantasy. We're not going to let them take it away, Phil. Groshans just has to stay healthy, Phil. That's what Christian says.
Maybe, yeah. I don't. Let me pull the numbers up. I think my gut take was that he hasn't shown a lot of power yet, which is just, especially for fantasy, concerns me. But just in general, as a baseball player nowadays, yeah, you know, his ISO 2018 ISO was 169, 2019 145, 2021 158. It's hard to be an impact prospect if your isolated slugging's not over 200 usually. So he makes a lot of contact. He gets on base a lot. So he might be a nice, well-rounded player, and I think he can play a few positions defensively. I guess the power just needs to take a step. But he's also 22.
Yeah.
So.
He also doesn't steal any bags either. So, you look at surface level stats, they don't look that tantalizing. I mean, I know he has more to offer than his surface stats, but man, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the power is going to have to make a step, would be my take.
You're absolutely right. He needs that to be a relevant player in fantasy going forward. Carl, not Phil Goyette, says, when's MLB going to get this done? Well, we covered this at the beginning of the show, and if you missed the beginning, as soon as the live version ends here in a couple of minutes, you can watch this on repeat again and again and again and again and again on our YouTube channel anytime you want. Plazo Podcast, 2 L's, 2
Utah.
Z's.
Give me 2.
And we said that we're hoping the deal gets done before the season starts, but we're both not optimistic about it right now.
They could end it right now. They could end the lockout tomorrow. So
they could. Yeah. And they could start spring training while they still negotiate. That's technically true.
Yep. Sure could.
Seems
they can even play games.
I don't know.
I think the players would play games.
I'm expecting the season will, at this date, the season will start on time. Spring training's totally screwed for sure. But the season could still start on time as of February 15th. But I will change that the further we get into an endless debate of, hey, you did, I want this, I want that. Yeah, we want minor leaguers to not be paid. It's just, screw you guys. You guys aren't cool, man. All right, lastly, who is the deep play here? Who is the person in the Toronto Blue Jays system that we should know about who a lot of people don't?
I put Eric Pardinho on the list. He's a Dominican right-hander. He had Tommy John last year, so he was shut down for a while due to the elbow and then wound up having Tommy John surgery. So he's not going to pitch in 2022. So this is a very deep sleeper in a very deep dynasty format where you're looking to stash people. So the Blue Jays actually left him unprotected for the Rule 5, but nobody grabbed him because nobody wanted to park him while he's recovering. So I think he'll be back in the Blue Jays system. He's a very talented pitcher. Fastball was up to 97, and he's just a little guy. He has a very well-balanced, sort of like a Japanese style, if you can picture that in your mind, of pitching, windup, and delivery. So you know how Japanese pitchers tend to be very balanced over their center as they come down the hill. So, with that, Pardinho can get great velocity on the fastball, even though he's just a little dude. So keep your eye on him. He'd be a guy maybe you want to stash in a very deep dynasty like our startup or something, take him near the end. I don't think people will have him on their radar at all. He's a very promising prospect, and he's a Brazilian pitching prospect, which is cool too.
Hell yeah. I love that. Brazilian. We need more Brazilians in baseball. I feel like there's not enough representation for Brazil.
Yeah. They're all playing football.
Football, yeah. Hey, guys, if you don't know Phil is big into football. He loves Premier League and all that stuff. So if you're into that, that's a great reason to follow him on Twitter at Phil of Sports. It's not my thing, but I do respect it. It's just, I'm not like a hardcore soccer dude, but I love playing soccer, the game itself. I've played it for many, many years. I haven't played in like 5 years, but I used to play adult soccer, indoor, outdoor. It's a lot of fun. It's a great game. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Most popular game in the world.
Jasper says stash artist right here. Oh, that's cool, being a stash artist. That's a great term. I feel like that should be a thing. I'm a stash artist, especially in Dynasty. Real quickly before we leave, Helmut wants to know, Samad Taylor, Toronto sleeper? Samad Taylor.
You might have
we stumped
me.
you?
I'll have to come back with you on that.
Yeah. I don't know Samad Taylor. Maybe you could fill us in, Helmut. Who is Samad Taylor, and why should we know who he is? Because that's why we do the show. We all want to learn from each other, even though Phil knows his stuff. But
let me search my own Twitter. Oh, wait. Well, here's a tweet from myself, July 8th, 2021. Samad Taylor, power/speed intrigue, I wrote.
Ooh.
So Samad Taylor.
You do.
Look at this. In mid-July, I had his estimated barrel rate at 13.7%, which is actually exciting. Anything double digits is good. 13%, you're talking plus power. So
yeah,
check him out. Good, very deep cut there by Helmut, I would say.
Well done, Helmut. That's fantastic. Samad Taylor, another Toronto sleeper to know. And Christian says he's more of a real-life player, and Christian knows what he's talking about. So make sure you follow Christian on Twitter as well. Go find him, Christian Crespo,
Absolutely.
And his Triple Play Network with Marty Tallman, who popped in on the chat earlier. You can find them on the Triple Play Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. Really good stuff. Christian is a wise fellow. All right, that's it for the show. We're already over time. We want to thank you guys for popping in, saying hello, giving us questions, dropping your dimes in here. We love it. We thank you. Phil Govier, Michael Govier. Follow us on Twitter. Connect with us. Keep the conversation going. Dynasty is in full effect. There's no baseball right now, but we're all drafting. We're all making trades, right? I feel it. I feel like I want to get full bore into it. I just want the game to come back to us so we can be totally secure that it'll be ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Show us your teams. I like seeing teams. I know people complain about that, but I'm the opposite. I like seeing how your drafts are going because it gives me ideas.
Phil, that is a great call. Actually, I think that's what we'll do. Next week, we're going to highlight our team of the week. If you guys send us your team rosters, you want to show off, or you want to think, hey, what do these guys think? Do they suck? Are my players awful? Do you like my roster? Screenshot it and send it to us. You can hit up Phil of Sports or MJ Govier, tweet it at us or DM us, and we'll highlight it for next week's show. And each week after that, we'll do the team of the week that we will all get to analyze all the way to the nitty gritty. And if you can handle it, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, check it. We'll check it out. It'll be fun.
Hell yeah, sounds great. All right, we're out of here. Jasper, see you, fellas. Godspeed to all of you. Have a wonderful week, and we'll catch you next Tuesday right here, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, he's Phil Govier. I'm Michael Govier. Tweet at us. Plaza Podcast, 2 L's, 2
Utah.
Z's.
Give me 2.